All right, guys, Joe McDonough back here with MyMMAnews.com, joined by a special guest coming off his first UFC victory, John Castaneda, Mr. Sexi Mexi. I mean, I think we have to start off there. Is just what an amazing name, you know? I mean, what? Tell me the background on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, brother. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. In terms of Sexi Mexi, it's obviously you guys have heard of like the freshman 15 in college. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So in college, my freshman year, I gained a little bit more than 15. Let's just say I was probably like up 30 pounds from my normal.
Wow.
Weight, right? I started training at the Mankato MMA Club, it's called, and my coach was a gentleman called Ray White, and he saw my transformation. Basically, I started training full time with him while I was in school. I noted I dropped maybe like 40 pounds in a couple of months just training mixed martial arts full time, and he was like, "Wow, John, like you're looking good. You're losing weight. You're looking pretty sexy." And he called me Sexi Mexi one time, and ever since then it just stuck. So.
Absolutely. Hey, whatever sticks, man. And I mean, from the freshman 15 to the sophomore -40, I mean, exactly. That's living the dream if there is one, you know? So talk to me, you know, about the first UFC win, you know, the emotions. Talk to me about, you know, obviously this is your second UFC appearance, but, you know, the first win. Talk to me just about everything, and obviously such a great win, you know, with that big KO.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It was honestly surreal. My entry into the UFC has been, you know, nothing but good competition. Obviously, making my debut against Nathaniel Wood, a tough opponent, and then right back to it with Eddie Wineland. You know what I mean? It was a lot of nerves going into that one. You know, nobody wants to start their MMA career 0-2, and so it was a big win for me, obviously mentally, but just also just because it's Eddie Wineland, you know what I mean? He's a legend of the sport. Yeah, I grew up watching Eddie Wineland, you know, in high school and college. You know, that's somebody that any non-casual MMA fan should know. You know what I mean? Eddie Wineland, he competed. You know, he was the WEC champ. He's competed for the title in the UFC. He's got the most knockouts in bantamweight history. You know what I mean? Like I knew all those things growing up, and when I got offered that fight, I thought it was a little surreal, and obviously, let alone beating a guy like that. You know, it was definitely the biggest fight for me mentally, and it was a big win for me for sure.
And you know, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. Take me through, you know, we hear it all the time. You know, I had just talked to Sean Madden, coach over at Elevation Fight Team, when Corey Sagan fought Frankie Edgar. And there's this, you know, are you fighting the fighter, or are you fighting the legend behind the fighter? And obviously, like you said, Eddie Wineland, you know, in the WEC since 2006, UFC fighter since 2010 or 11. I mean, you know, bantamweight history there. I mean, just a legend, you know, of the UFC. And what's it like preparing for a guy that you, like you said, you were a fan of? You were watching him before you were in this moment, and now here you are setting up, fighting him across the cage.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like different, you know, like you were saying, like, am I fighting the fighter or the legend? You know what I mean? And in my mind, I knew, you know, realistically, I'm fighting Eddie Wineland, 36-year-old Eddie Wineland, who, yes, is a veteran of the sport, but you know, I'm a dog. I'm an up and comer. You know, I felt advantages, you know, after watching a lot of his fights. I knew there was going to be weaknesses on his end, and I knew I was going to have some strengths, a speed advantage, you know, and stuff like that. So I knew right away that I was fighting Eddie Wineland, and not, you know, overly thinking myself, I'm fighting legend Eddie Wineland, you know. So.
Yeah. And like you said, Eddie Wineland, you know, at 36 years old at this point, but he came in strong in that first round. I mean, he looked really good in that first round, and you caught him. I mean, was there anything going through your mind that he was looking a little stronger or faster than he had previously looked in his past fights?
I wouldn't say stronger or faster. I mean, I don't think it's ever been a question whether Eddie can hold power. You know what I mean? He's age has nothing to do with that either. I think that he's always going to have good punching power and good punching speed. But to be honest, the thing that caught me off guard was the trajectory of his punches. So we were going into that fight with the whole mindset of, you know, a lot of movement, outside angles, and then kind of just like pick my shots until I hurt him, and then eventually kind of pounce on him like I did. But what was weird was, you know, the biggest thing that we saw during fight camp, and what we were going to try to exploit was his hands, right? They get pretty low here. But the thing that we didn't think about is that his punches are coming from here too. And honestly, it comes at a weird angle, man. It's like, it's hard to explain, but when
punches, it's a bizarre style.
It's weird, man. And they came out clean with no extra baggage. You know, usually fighters will a little bit, a little elbow lift or a little
Yeah.
shoulder shrug or something. These things were cannons firing straight from down there. So that's the only thing that kind of caught us off guard. You know what I mean? We knew that Eddie was going to have speed and power, but when I got tagged with that clean, it kind of made me rethink a little bit. And I was going to take that whole rest of the first round to kind of download the information and kind of figure out his timing even better than I thought it was going to be. But I was moving, and as soon as he landed one good shot and then he didn't really follow up with anything, I was like, okay, well, I'm good here. I'm going to start, I got a little bit more comfortable, and I landed one good shot that I saw out of my peripherals really stunned him. I saw a little wobble in his leg, and then we were able to take advantage of that. So
absolutely. And take me through that lesson from the first, your debut fight, which also was against a very tough opponent. Take me through the biggest I guess lesson or learning point from that fight.
I would say the biggest thing, honestly, for me, it was a more so like a mental win, is especially coming into the UFC against a tough guy like Nathaniel Wood. And there's no excuses whether I took the fight on 2 weeks notice or 10 weeks notice. You know what I mean? Like, I lost the fight. But the biggest lesson I learned is that I do belong here, with the top of the food chain, like the top guys in the whole world. And that was a question going into this fight. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? Like, no guy starts off their UFC debut and thinks, oh yeah, like this, I'm still here. You know what I mean? Like, you got to prove it to yourself. And I think I did just that. That was the lesson I learned, that, I definitely belong here.
Mm-hmm. And take me through 2020 as a whole. A year of a shit show, I guess, of a lack of a better word. And for a lot of prospects on the verge of being in the UFC, kind of having to sit on the sidelines. You got that call up, you were ready. And, take me through just kind of being ready through just the unknown of what 2020 was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, 2020 in general, it was kind of hit or miss for a lot of people. A lot of fighters, their gyms were closed down. Everything was new territory. But for me, luckily here in Minnesota, we have like some weird laws where if you're a professional athlete, doesn't matter what sport, you're able to continue to go into the training facilities that you need for everything.
Cool.
Yeah. So we were actually, it was a blessing for me. 2020 was a lot of growth for me. Just because I was still able to continue to train. But not only that, but our coach, our actual gym was closed, but we were still running MMA practices. So our coach really gave us a lot of one-on-ones for the majority of the entire year. You know what I mean? And with a coach like Greg Nelson, a legend of the sport, it was nothing but knowledge for me. So I grew a lot during 2020. Obviously, I wish I would have known about the Nathaniel Wood a little bit more than 2 weeks in advance, but we did what we could. We learned from it. And now we're just going to stay ready. You know what I mean? Like I fought here, I'm healthy. And so now I know like the process that, how quickly things can kind of turn in a sense of confirmed fights. You know what I mean? I know it only takes 2 weeks or somebody getting hurt, some corner getting COVID or whatever it might be. So just staying ready, staying low on weight, which is more important for me than anything, staying low on weight, staying in shape. And, any last minute opponents or, hopefully another full camp, we'll be ready.
And is it, it's interesting you say that with coaches getting COVID and opponents pulling out. Is it now more than ever? And maybe for, I think it's different for all fighters and all camps and all coaches, but to kind of focus on your own, bringing out the best in yourself rather than your opponent and, watching film. Is that something that 2020 had a lot of, because ideally you don't know if you're going to fight the guy you're supposed to fight 3 or 4 weeks out.
Exactly. And honestly, yeah, my head coach, Greg Nelson, he stresses that, you know what I mean? We'll dabble with a little bit of tape here and there, to kind of just pick up on some tendencies. But to be honest, like it's almost like irrelevant. It could be a totally, completely different fighter that shows up to fight that night, So more so train on your strengths and have yourself be a problem to him more so than being worried about what this guy's going to show up with. You know what I mean? Oh, he's got a good right hand, so I'm only going to train defense for right hands. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way to train. I think you need to just focus on yourself, focus on your own strengths and show up to fight that night.
And take me through, being a part of this division. Not only, like you said, you are not only here, but you've shown that you deserve to be on that, that cusp of the top 15, all of that stuff. Take me through, because I think personally 135 is the deepest division in the UFC. I think, 155 is right there, but 135, I think personally, between the top 15 and then the guys right on the bubble and all that stuff, there's just so much going on. Take me through being a part of this division.
100%. It's exciting and scary all at the same time. But no, I agree. Even from like a very non-biased opinion, like 135 runs deep and it runs the deepest. And I agree 155 is right next in line, but it's honestly like it's an honor. And to be honest, I just have so much more to prove to myself that, yeah, Eddie Wineland is a great win for me, but let's be real. He's not a top 15 guy. And I'm willing to work my way up and prove to myself and to all of my supporters that I am, high quality and top caliber. So I'm ready to continue to prove myself. It's going to be an exciting year.
And I can speak for all of us, all of us fans that we're super excited for that, and to see that out of you. For you, what is next? I mean, do you want to get right back in there? Do you have any, in an exciting division? There's a lot of exciting names. Is there anyone that excites you that you'd say, wants to put you in that top 15?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, first and foremost, what's next for me is I want to stay busy this year. Luckily, I was, no injury free. I was basically injury free this last fight here. So we were right back to training here on Monday. And it feels good. Honestly, it feels good not taking time off and just kind of jumping right back into things. Obviously, we're not training with the intensity as we were a week prior to my last fight. You know what I mean? But we're training, we're staying active, we're recovering. It's fun. If you're not having fun with what you're doing, then why are you doing it? And I'm having fun. I'm showing up to practice. I'm having fun. I just want to stay busy. Hopefully, if it were up to me and me only, April, May, hop back in there. April, May, maybe a month or two from now, and just keep on this upward trajectory. In terms of names, honestly, I trust my management. My management's the one who got me into the UFC. Obviously, with that short notice fight, against Nathaniel Wood, that was just the opportunity to get me into the UFC. I think they were able to secure the spot for Eddie Wineland, and they trusted me with that. Obviously they saw what I could do in my debut, even though I lost. They trusted me with getting a win against a tough veteran like Eddie Wineland. So whoever they decide and the UFC decides that I should fight next, that's who it's going to be. I don't think I've earned the right just yet to be able to call people out yet. Give me a couple more wins. We'll redo this interview and I'll call some people out for you.
All right. I love it. And in what's next, April or May, do you would you take a short notice fight or would you rather get that 3 or 4 week camp in?
Yeah, in terms of preference, absolutely. I think any fighter in the world would prefer the 3 or 4 fight camp. But yes, I would take short notice, especially like I just said, there's no injuries. So we're right back in the gym. We're going to do our best to keep our weight down and stay in tip top shape. So any last minute, deals like that, I'm definitely a candidate.
Mm-hmm. And 135 has a plethora of names that'll be Absolutely. Super exciting as fans to see you against. John, thank you very much for the time. And again, congratulations on that big UFC debut. Not debut, first win,
Thank you so much, brother.
First of many.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. First of many. Let's go.